Gosh, all right. I think we're live. This is awesome. Well, yeah, so welcome to Talk Power BI. This is just a forum for me to hang out and talk with you folks about Power BI. So I do have a special presentation today. I'm going to be talking about Power BI modeling best practices. And believe me, there was a lot of back and forth on that name. Thanks to all of you who submitted your suggestions. I'm just going to check my feed is working. Okay, perfect. Looks good. And how are we doing? So yeah, give me a few minutes here to make sure everything is set up and started. But yeah, glad to have you guys here. I can see you chat. Hey Vidya, thank you. And let's go here. All right. So we're on two platforms and we'll see how this goes. We're on YouTube Live
Welcome to the
and
webinar. You have entered as an organizer and may
we
now
are
speak to any
on
other organizers or panelists on the
talkpowerbi.com.
line.
That's
When
a
you are ready to begin the
GoToWebinar.
presentation, press the Start Broadcast
But it
button
doesn't matter where you're
on the
watching me.
GoToWebinar control panel to
I'm gonna
allow
get the
all
same
attendees
content.
to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, terrific. So hey, folks on the Talk Power BI webinar, can you just chime in, put in the question box that you can hear me okay, and then we'll get going. And thank you to everybody for joining today. All right, Sean says he can hear me, so I think we're good to go. So I'll run through my bit. Again, the starting of this, I wanted to kind of preview my talk, upcoming talk, focused on Power BI modeling best practices. So why don't we switch to that? So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to, where's my chat? Oh, okay, there it is. And hold on, let me get everything. Where is it? Oh boy. Oh, there it is. Okay, perfect. I think I have things in control here. I got the chat window up. Hi, Ankush. Hello. Oh, hey, Justina. Glad to have you here. Justina is one of our Learn Power BI students. Greg, awesome. Glad to have you here. All right, so we're gonna go over this one. I'm gonna use that to kick things off, and then we'll come back to what we usually do for Talk Power BI, where I just kind of take your questions and so forth. So Power BI modeling best practices. I couldn't fit modeling in there, but Power BI best practices, and I went with a subtitle: Rookie Mistakes You Don't Want to Make. So this session is coming officially in August through the Microsoft Power BI webinars, but I wanted to run a preview to kind of get, get some ideas out there, get your feedback on them, and maybe get some new ideas from all of you. So this, I realize, is level 200. I'm not going to have time to explain exactly in detail why something is a best practice. I'll try my best. But yeah, for newcomers, this might be a bit jarring. If you're looking for a level 100 intro, then just go to learnpowerbi.com and sign up for my webinar, which actually is coming this Tuesday. So that's the news there. And yeah, as I said, I'm looking for your ideas, your feedback. So let me know kind of in the chat window uh, when you hear something it's like, yeah, that made sense, or yep, I learned that too the hard way. And that's the thing, folks, right? I mean, a lot of these lessons I learned the hard way by doing them wrong. Like, oh, okay, that's why I shouldn't be doing it this way. Okay, so I have this list, and the first one by far, so Justina is on the call, and she knows that this is the test that I use when my students, my Learn Power BI students, gonna come back and show me an example. And frankly, even when I was consulting, the first thing that I would look at the model, okay, is the diagram view. So, a client calls me, like, yeah, we're working with this. First thing I ask for, just show me the diagram view. And if somebody shows me like this, well, if they're not my student, then I don't judge them. But if they're my student, I give them an F. Okay, just kidding. Not an F. We talk about it in the class. There are no failing grades. It's just not yet, right? So they're not there yet. They missed a lesson. So yeah, this is not how I organize my table. This is not how I show my diagram view ever. And I don't expect my students to show it this way either. And I expect to see something like this. All right. Now what is really going on here? So for one, well, this one is kind of random. Usually people don't do anything to organize, or they just move things around. Sometimes they try to do it in a star. But this one is very intentional, very structured. For one, for me, man, the concept of a data table and a lookup table is very important. Now, the geekier ones would call it dimension and fact. I never use those terms. Data and lookup tables, that's incredibly important to understand. Data table simply is something that represents a business process, a sales, right? Something being shipped, things like that. The lookup tables are your entities, are your Uber entities, right? They're usually the who, what, where, when, how of your business. And it's very important to kind of delineate the two. I don't want to go on a rant on this. I love talking about this, but I will say, so I came to Power BI from an Excel background, and I believe that one skill, that this concept put me head and shoulders above anybody else who's at least coming from Excel background. So the concept is around data modeling, data and lookup tables, and my Bible has been Kimball's book, which I actually haven't read. I owe the thanks to one of my colleagues, Greg Weber, who taught me the whole thing. I never had to open the book. That's the easy way, my friends. Find a friend who knows it. Kind of like knowing a friend who owns a boat, you know? Yeah, you don't want to buy a boat. Okay, back to this. So this is my data table, and notice what I've done here, right? I mean, my data table I make them bigger. I mean, they're key. They're important. They have a lot of measures anyway. I end up with sometimes 50, 100 measures. Yes, I love my measures. We'll talk more about that. So yeah, so it's got a few measures. This is just a test. This is not even production one. Production one have more. So they're larger. I can tell them right away that hey, this is a data table. This is another data table. I hate it. I don't know why, but yeah, I can tell right away. And what's going on over here? Kind of weird. And on the top are my lookup tables. So I can tell right away what's the structure of my model. Let's stay there. I want to make sure I cover all this stuff. I can go as deep as we need in this. Next one, I see they use bidirectional filtering on a lot of relationships, and this used to be briefly the default, and that was a mini disaster. And I think few of us rallied against it and convinced the Microsoft team that this wasn't quite the right idea. And that's the great thing about Power BI. The team is listening. So now it's no longer the default, which is good, but still you still might have ended up with that in an old model, or, and this is the worst thing, my friends, there's no way to sugarcoat it. You know, you cannot really learn Power BI, the concepts, by hunt and peck, by without a structured learning and by just experimentation. Excel, sure, right? You can go a long way, but you'll always struggle. So I see people were like, oh, my measure is not working. I'm just gonna make it a bidirectional relationship and see how that works, right? Oh, gosh, that reminds me of another one. Hey, let me quickly write an idea before I forget it. Sorry about the detour. Okay, great. So we're talking about bidirectional filtering. So that's one. That's not that should not be the default. Bidirectional filtering should be very intentional. So in this model, I have many-to-many kind of relationship expressed through a bridge table, and right, and that has a bidirectional filter. But that's it. That's just one, and that's very intentional. I knew what I was doing it. Right, so don't do that. And the other thing that I have realized looking at working with some of my clients is sometimes it's also a bad idea to auto detect relationships. So in your options, and I wish this was a global thing. I never find it. It's supposed to be file specific, so that means you might have to turn it off in every file. But for most users, this is better to be turned off. Because yeah, I mean, for new users, you end up with weird relationships, and yeah, I want you to be very intentional about your relationships too, and that applies in your personal life as well. All right. Okay, cool. So I think we can go away with this guy. Come back to this one. Maybe I'll just stay in this mode. Easier if an idea strikes me. Yeah, Viking has a good suggestion. So Viking, really quick. Yeah, I'm not sure if you join it later. Yeah, this is a kind of a level 200 session. There's one on my site, level 100. If you just go to learnpowerbi.com, there's a 100 session coming up. But by the comment you made, I think you're ready, man. So he's talking about a virtual table which only contains measures and nothing more. I love that one. I love that trick. And you know what? I'm gonna take some notes. So I'm gonna say Viking table with measures. We'll talk about that. I love that one. All right, terrific. What else going on now? So yeah, we talked about bidirectional filtering. Best, you might want to turn auto detect relationships off, or what I do when a new table brings in, I delete the relationships and set, just set it by myself. It just somehow feels more tangible. Oh boy, this is a bad one. Flattening all tables. So you kind of go the Excel route, and in Excel you do a VLOOKUP. Here you actually have a few options. You can flatten the table inside the query editor, where you can bring in all these attributes using a merge and just have this one wide table. And that is bad. That is not good. So instead of all these data and lookup tables, you're going to end up with one ginormous table with like 150 columns, and it'll have kind of everything in there. What's even worse, oh my gosh, this really makes me cringe, is sometimes they would mash up not just what I would call a data table and a lookup table, they would mash two data tables together. And again, data tables kind of represent processes. Sales is a very specific process, right? Somebody swipes a card, you make a sale. Budgeting is a very different process. So budget here uh, is here, and I've seen where they would flatten these two in the same table. It's very hard to do. It is much harder than doing it the simple way here. But sometimes if all you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So if flattening is all you're used to, that's what you're doing even in Power BI. Very bad. Very bad. I'm just kidding. All right, it's okay. Oh, this is worse though, right? If you thought that was bad, this is worse because this is ugly. I think in the email that I sent out talked about the good, the bad, the ugly. This is definitely ugly. So the ugly is that they flatten the whole thing. They flatten the whole thing, and they have this one ginormous sales table, but they still keep the lookup tables, Or maybe they start out with this way with the data and lookup tables, and then they use oh gosh, what is it? Related, yeah. Related is kind of the Power BI version of VLOOKUP, and they use related to bring in all the attributes kind of here from these tables. Yeah, that's just ugly. I mean, you have the data and lookup, but you're still flattening. Don't do it. Whew. Okay. All right. Deep breaths. Let's talk about queries. Okay, so this is the stuff that I could think of the top of my head. I'm hoping I come up with more, but let's talk about some stuff. So query, I love the fact, love, 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 love. Well, actually, let's start with hate. And yeah, I hope my kids are not listening. I've been teaching them not to use the words love and hate too casually. Anyway, so one thing that I hated in my old life was documentation. It's just silly, it's just stupid. It takes so much time. I mean, if it took me an hour to build a report, it would take me 2 hours to write the documentation. And the worst thing, as soon as I was done, it was out of date because business moves on, processes move on, reports move on. They should at least, and why not when you have Power BI, when you can move so quick. And I love this fact that this is pretty much self-documenting. So here I can come to any query, I can open it. If I hand it off to somebody else, if I go on vacation, win a lottery, whatever, right? Get hit by a bus. Anybody can come in and step in and go step by step, and they can examine exactly what's going on. So this is the query editor, by the way, so I popped it up. And you can just step by step, and these are usually good. Now, this is what differentiates, I think, a rookie from a pro. Okay. uh, Pros would often rename their steps. I mean, simple as this. I'm glad I had one example I can show here. I didn't know what I was pulling. Added last initial. It doesn't say added custom. Sometimes you see added custom 1, added custom 2, and on. Like they added 5 custom columns and you have no idea what that is. Hey, added last initial, right? Just makes so much sense. Helps so much with readability as somebody trying to understand it and so forth. Okay, so that was, actually I talked about this guy. Sorry, I missed one. I'll come back to this. Let's stick with renaming. So documentation. So renaming steps, great, good thing for documentation. Other stuff that pros do is they would go to properties and write in the comments. Are needed for easy filtering, right? So just put in a comment, hit OK. And the way this shows is as you're hovering over the step, notice the comment pops up, right? It's also there in the M code if you're ready for that yet. By the way, just a side tip, if you're not stepped in with M, I'll freely admit M scared me. I mean, I had learned DAX, that took a while, and I'm like, oh my God, not another language. And the key is you crack the door open. And you crack the door open by turning on this formula bar. And you do that by going to the view menu and just, where is it? Oh yeah, there it is, the formula bar. Just turn it on. And that was my introduction. I mean, I initially when I popped in the advanced editor, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to see that. And this way, I just kind of started looking at the step, just reading it. And, a lot of them kind of made sense as I was doing it. And pretty soon I would just maybe come in here and make a change really quick right in there. All right, so that was a side tangent. Coming back to kind of documentation. So you would rename the steps. You would add some properties to it. And this is kind of the next level, which is you would add sections in there. And let me see if I have something complicated enough. Not here. Maybe here. Yeah, let's see what's going on. Remove column, duplicated column. Yeah, I think there's something big going on here. So what I was doing was I was adding a customer sort, right? So that was the intent, but it's hard to see that here. So what I would do is I would right click and just say insert step after, and I would rename this. Why can't I rename it? Let me come back to it. Click, and rename. And I use this. You can do anything you want. And I'll say getting customer sort. And notice, yeah, so now I look for these. And if I have a query which has 20, 50 steps, yeah, let's stay there. 50 steps, I would have a few of these sprinkled across because typically I'm saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and that involves multiple steps. Then there will be another one just like this guy, the equal, and you can use whatever you want. So that's it. That really helps me a lot. There are other tricks, but we'll stay here. Let me talk about this. Load all queries. Yeah, rookie mistake. So here, where my queries go? Yeah, notice that customer sales. Oh. So if you don't know this already, if you go to the view menu, you can click on the query dependencies. I'll be a little immodest and say, yeah, I submitted this feature. I requested this. So I was so happy and ecstatic when this was delivered. So this shows you a visual view. Now notice, where is the one that I'm looking for? Customer sales. I wish this was another color, but it does say load disabled. So customer sales is being used in the query, right? So it's being used by this, but I don't need this in my final table. It's a throwaway table or a building block. I often do it. In fact, this is a simple model. In production, I would have 50. Yeah, I would have 50 or more queries, but I would be loading maybe 10. Right, so rookie mistake is you load all of your building blocks as well. So you don't come in here and uncheck this enable load. What does that do? Well, that clutters up your model, increases the size of the model. That means increases the memory footprint. That means it could degrade the performance. Probably the first reason is good enough. It just clutters the model. Come on, a model is my temple, my friends. Look at this, right? I work hard on this every day to clean it up. No, that's a good part. You just have to do it once. Set it and forget it. That's what I love about Power BI. Okay, so I did talk about that, not in a section, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is a big one. Oh gosh. I'm not sure if I want to save it. This is a huge one. I'm not going to be able to do justice to it. So I'll give you the quick version, which is 922 already. Let's go back to our model. So actually, I'm going to come back to it because let's talk about this. Let's talk about DAX. So the first one, and it really ticks me off. And again, if they're not a student in my class, then I don't judge them. But if they've been in a student in my class, I'm like, what? Go back and watch those videos. So this one is when you use a column, I'm going to put red here, you do not prefix it with a table name. Just ticks me off, right? Just ticks me off. Like, why? Why would you do that, right? So the correct way to write it is you use a table name. Sales total product cost. Okay, great, right? So table, column name. Columns are always that way. And other one is where you would prefix a measure with a table name. I'm like, no, please don't. So measures stand on their own. Measures stand on their own. So measures do not have table prefixes. Why is that important? Really, for me, the biggest thing is I want to be able to tell right away whether a reference is a column or a measure. And this lets me do that. If I see a table name before that, I know it's a column. If I do not see a table name, I know it's a measure. And well, now you can kind of tell a little bit by the color coding, but hey, I've been using this for a while. Plus, I still wouldn't rely on that. I mean, yeah, so I love that as a clear indicator. Now, why is that important? My friends, DAX can be tricky. So inevitably, at some point or the other, you're going to be debugging your measures, and I don't want any confusion there. So this just keeps me rolling without a pause. So yep, I'm a stickler about it. I've heard a lot of other gurus talk about this. So I'm like, why not, right? I don't have a good reason not to do it. So if some of these even don't make sense, maybe you can take that. Like, hey, if you don't have a good reason not to do it, then just do as Avi said. Keep adding columns. So this is again a rookie mistake. Folks come in and they would go to their sales table, and then if they want, like, I don't know, like sales minus cost or something, profits, they would just add a column, new column, another new column, another new column, and just keep going that way. Don't do that. What you need are measures. All right, perfect. So I talked about this. I talked about this. They keep adding columns instead of measures. That's the right answer. Ooh, this is a good one. So when are columns needed? Actually, I'm not gonna talk about that. I'll save that for the discussions. There are some cases where columns are needed, but when do you know it's right to have a column? It's okay to have a column. Using query editor. Ah, gosh, yeah. So using query when a measure is needed. Oh gosh. So no wonder this appears in two places. So sometimes, well, often. So one is let's go back here. So now there are kind of actually two ways to add a column. One is you can go to your model and say new column here, right? So that would kind of give you a new column. You can define the formula, go that way. The other way is you can do it in your query editor. And what I have seen is a lot of Excel folks just take very naturally to the query editor. I don't know where it popped up. Bad queries. Let's try it again. Okay, there we go. So they would do a lot of calculation in the query editor. And again, that's not right. That's not the point. Your calculations should be measures. So yeah, don't kind of abuse the power you've got. Okay, so last one. This is the one that I just thought of and I was talking about earlier. Again, that approach of let me just hack this thing, right? And again, I think that had marginal, uh, I think that can work marginally well in uh, in Excel, perhaps, but not in the new world. Like, oh, let me just change it to this both-way filtering, bidirectional filtering, and maybe that'll make it work. So they will go to their measures and just wrap something in calculate. And I see this all the time, usually with some X, like, oh, this thing is not working. So I would see. Uh, I don't know. I don't have a sum x example, but it's calculate, and then there's sum x. I'm like, why is there a calculator around it? Remove it, right? So don't don't do that. Kind of weird. Yeah, this are these I don't know straggler calculates. All right, so that was a lot of that was kind of technical. Hopefully that made sense. I do have Vikings comment I want to talk about in a bit, but I think there's I want for the next two. These are a bit higher level, right? So these are somewhat conceptual. So the next one is people they treat Power BI desktop or they create PBIX files just the way they were creating XLSX files, Excel files. And hey, I've lived a long time in Excel. I know how that world was. Usually you had a lot of files, right? I mean, somebody asked for a report, you create a new one, create a new one, and you have it's just littered all around. And that was kind of the Excel hell you seem to inevitably end up in. And I've seen some, not all, not you, yeah, you're good, maybe others, right? They use Power BI Desktop just the same way, and they would have like 20 different Power BI Desktop files just with small variations. Oh yeah, this is for this group, and that's for no, yeah, that's for this report, and they would just make copies. That's not the idea. Idea is to make this model the single source of truth, which takes me to the next point. You cannot really do that unless you move beyond Power BI Desktop. And hey, Microsoft has two options for you right now. It has, you can either publish it on, let me see if I have that visual. This is one of my favorite visuals. You can either publish it on this guy. Oh, there we go. You can either publish it on PowerBI.com or the Power BI report server. But once you publish it, right, so author models it, builds the model in Power BI Desktop, and then you publish it, and that becomes a single source of truth. That becomes a source where all reports are connected. That becomes a source where users, anybody out there who has access to it, can create their own reports just they want, or maybe modify your reports and kind of save them as their own or something like that, right? So that is key, and you move beyond the PBIX to this new world by publishing it somewhere. Okay, so this is perfect. We're near the half an hour mark. I didn't want to take up the whole hour just by me talking because that's not the intent of Talk Power BI. It's you and I talking. So what we're going to do, let me quickly glance at the questions. So Viking has been working on for a while. Good stuff. Let me see if there was anything on. So Ashok was asking, how to connect Excel sheets from SharePoint Online. I'm trying to create one Power BI report which will, okay, makes sense. You should be able to do that. How to connect Excel sheets from SharePoint Online. Um, well, so maybe somebody can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you open the file in Excel, right? And let's see, I don't know, what can I safely open? Oh, there we go, maybe. Let's just do a new document. If you open that from SharePoint Online, so that, again, the question is, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be writing these questions. Go to Talk Power BI. This is this. What did I do here? Okay, July 21. 21. So the question is from Ashok, and he's asking about connecting to Excel on SharePoint Online. So I want all of you guys to keep me honest, but I would say you can open the file, go to info, and for a saved file, it'll let you copy the link. You copy the link, and then you should just be able to go to Power BI, get data, and I think you can choose Excel and just point to that, stick that URL in there, and it would work. Uh, if that doesn't work, don't give up hope. I'm 100% sure this would be possible. So I was talking the other day about somebody trying to connect to Google Drive and Google Sheets, and there's some jumping through the hoops involved there. But connecting to an Excel file, SharePoint Online, that's all Microsoft systems. So I'm 100% sure that's enabled. So try that. What else? Recording. Pascal, yes. So this is also live on YouTube. I see you've joined through the GoToWebinar, which is all good. So this will be on my YouTube channel, which is, I don't know, maybe you, I don't know if I'm famous enough that you search for Avi Singh and you find me. Let's see. YouTube. It'll be slightly embarrassing on a live call if I don't find myself. Avi Singh. Oh, there. Perfect. Right. So, or maybe that's because I'm live. But anyway, so, or the channel is youtube.com/modern excel. So folks, those who are on the webinar, the advantage is if you have attended any past calls, I can not only unmute you and we can talk, we'll try that in a bit, but you can kind of share your question, you can share your screen and so forth. So we'll get into that. Let me just quickly run through the questions. Okay, so for Ashok, it's not working. So let's say, so. Okay, maybe let's just pause. Let's just try it. Let's see how it works. So if I go here and I go all right, hold on. Let me just set up a file. We'll say oh, there it is. Oh, interesting. So let's try a new Excel file. Okay, and this one is called test. All right, let's see if we can open this in Excel. Oh, sorry, the edit in Excel button was right there. All right, while I'm working on that, Pascal had another question. Power BI for reporting services on-prem only still load data from analysis services. Well, Power BI for reporting services, you can publish your Power BI desktop files. So you can take a Power BI desktop file. Power BI desktop, I see that, by the way, as an authoring tool. I mean, I know in a lot of cases it's used for more than that. People pass these files around. But really the intent is that this is an authoring tool for authors, and then author publish it somewhere. So they can just publish it to report server. I haven't tried that. I should give it a try. So I know publishing to Power BI desktop is really easy, but it should be easy enough to publish to the report server, just a PBIX file. So not just analysis services. Yes, that's so yeah, Ashok, I see you just saying I don't have SharePoint Online, but if you noticed the infrastructure behind it, it's SharePoint. It's yeah, I think they have kind of somehow merged the two. So I think if I can get it to work here using OneDrive, it would work the same way. So let's see, copy path to clipboard. Oops, not that one. And let's see. Ah, great. So you might have to edit the URL a bit. So this is the URL I got, and I'm pretty sure if this works in OneDrive, it'll work with SharePoint because again, I believe the underlying technology is kind of the same now. So it gave me this URL. I don't want this web thing. Who cares about that? So let's just stick this, go back to Power BI desktop, uh, and we'll say new. Oh, yeah, let's try Excel, and let's see how that works. They might ask for my credentials. Ooh, website to your trusted list. That might be something, I'm not sure. So it's, oh, okay, let's try this. Anonymous, Windows, organizational account. Let's try this. Oh boy, fingers crossed. All right, so give that a try. Again, you want to go just open the file in Excel. You want to go to File Info, copy the path to clipboard, and after that, you paste the path, and if there's any crud at the end of it, question mark web equal 1 or something, just delete that. And then what worked for me was, oops, not get Excel. Somehow that didn't work. I had to say new source web based in that XLSX path, and it asked me for credentials, which I supplied in. I used organizational account. You know, it may depend based on how your authentication is set up. Organizational account is a fair bet, I think. So hope that helps. Oh, you chose web. Is it safe? Yeah, it's good point. Is it safe? Uh, well, I chose web, but I pointed it to my SharePoint file. So you would point it to your own SharePoint file. So yeah, in the end, if your SharePoint file is kind of on-prem server, it's not really going out to the web. It's just a web address. And I don't know why it didn't kind of pick it up when I said Excel. Yes, it'll automatically update. Yep. So if I let's just try it. Oh, that would be so cool. Yeah, you know what? We shouldn't let ourselves forget how cool this is. I mean, yeah, I mean, I have to say, oh, do I have it open already? Yeah. So, oops, come on, how many times? So let's go back here and we'll say Mexico. So sometimes it takes my students to remind me that how awesome this is, you know, just being able to set it up and kind of refresh. So if you would, oops, yeah, so if you go here, and I'm just going to refresh preview here, but you can see Mexico comes in. So yep, once it's set up, it's already done. So that's overall what I love about Power BI. It's kind of you set it and forget it. If you do it right the first time, if you clean shape transform all your queries, they're going to run forever. Not forever, but let me talk about that. And if you set up your measures correctly, if you have all the measures and so forth, then you enable hundreds. Gosh, you know, I mean, I was managing single-handedly kind of a group audience of 500 plus. So let hundreds of users just go crazy at the model, build the reports that they need, enable self-serve, because measures don't just answer the questions you're asking right now. They they answer the questions that you may ask in the future as well. That's the power of measures, right? So you define something and you can slice and dice it any way you want in the future. Now changes do happen, so you're going to have to kind of keep the model up to date. But usually once you have something good going, those are pretty minor and pretty easy to make. Like if a query breaks or something like that, it's usually easy in these tools to come back and fix it. And again, the best part, you fix it in one place and that's it. It's a single source of truth, right? I mean, we talked about this. So you fix it in one place and you don't have to worry about everything downstream. That's automatically fixed. unlike the usual reporting hell that people live in, where there are 1,000 copies of everything. Like, oh my God, if you make a mistake in some elemental formula, now you have tons of places to chase it down. Okay, so let's try what we usually try in Talk Power BI. So if you would like to ask a question, oh, Pam is here. Pam is another alumni from our Learn Power BI class. Let's go to Pam. So Pam, I'm going to try to unmute you. Hey Pam, what's up? How are you doing?
Hey, hello. Hey, Avi.
Hey. All right. What
I've
do you?
got
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
have two rookie mistakes I'd like to add to your list. And
Great.
something I see people do a lot is they won't create a calendar table and they'll have like several different data sources and they'll just pick
Yeah.
one and use that as their date and then things don't work.
Oh, ouch. Yes.
And
Okay.
the second one, I know this is probably common sense, but I did this and I see a lot of other people do this. They put something together and then they jump right into writing formulas before they make sure that their data model, everything is working, everything is
Yeah.
flowing correctly, the relationships are right, they have
Yeah.
everything they want in there, and then they have to change something and then their formulas are messed up.
Yeah. Focus on the model.
You really need to spend the time to really think about what you're going to try to do and plan it out.
Boy, yeah. So, good points. Thank you. So let's talk about the calendar table. Uh, so far, I have never created a model without a calendar table. I say if your model has a date, you need a calendar table. And so far, all of my models have had a date. Theoretically, it's possible you're going to have a model which, I don't know, maybe doesn't have date, but I haven't encountered. So yeah, Pam, you're right. Always a calendar table. So calendar table, I have created in so many different ways, using SQL, from Excel, and I have my current favorite. But I want to ask you, I don't want to lead you. What's your typical way? How do you find yourself creating, or how do you bringing the calendar table into your model?
You, you know, I like the Power Query calendar that is expanding based on your data source.
Hmm.
So I really like that one instead of pulling in anything
Yeah.
else and
Yeah.
just
So,
using the same one constantly and just
yep.
adapting it to your particular model.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So you can, you can create it from scratch in the query editor, right? You can just say, give me a list of dates from A to B, and that can be dynamic. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes. Uh huh.
And pretty cool. And if you do have multiple models, again, we talked about don't go crazy. This file is not for Pam, or don't create 50 models. But if you have two or three models, you can easily just copy paste this calendar query and put in a new model you're building, right?
Yes.
Pretty cool. So yeah, folks, thank you, Pam, for highlighting that. That's a really good one. And this one is important. I think it's got two elements. It's got kind of the modeling piece where you got to think about it. And there, I'm usually thinking about kind of data versus lookup. Uh, but there's a lot of cleanup involved often as well. Uh, and right, so that's important. In fact, I was talking to what's, well, I call it cleanup, but the nerdy term is ETL, right? Extract, transform, load. So I was talking to an ETL person, and they said that I think they use an analogy, something like if they had an hour to work on a data model, they said something crazy. They said something like, 55 minutes they would spend on cleanup. Now, I'm not sure if I would split it that way, but yeah, so I think cleanup model is important. So I want to make sure I write down the impact, and the impact you said was that they would be constantly fixing and
Yes.
refixing.
Exactly. Yeah. Or they write formulas and then realize, oh, the table's wrong, or they didn't have the relationship, so they wasted their time.
Yeah, gosh, not to mention sometimes they would be making their lives harder just because it's not clean or it's
Yes.
not set up correctly. They would have to do
Yes.
something very hard. For instance, so thanks, Pam, for bringing both of those up
Yes.
for let's say. So for those who've used Power BI long enough, let me unhide this table. Is when you want to show two elements kind of side by side, sales and budget, something like that, or it could be anything else, support calls. All you have to do is bring in a new data table. Let's call it support calls. Oops, too big. But and then hook it up with whichever tables apply. So a support call has a date, maybe it has a product, and it has a customer, and that's it. And you can show them side by side. If you don't set it up this way, I've seen people really struggle trying to show this information together. All right, thank you, Pam.
Okay.
Glad to have you on the call. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, who else we have? Ashok, yeah, I'm gonna get to you in a second. We have a repeat caller on Talk Power BI, a regular, in fact. Guy Johnson, how are you, Guy? How's it going?
Good, good. And yourself?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind?
Okay, to go back to your on SharePoint thing. Almost
Yeah.
everything that I do is SharePoint Online, and
Mhm.
running through Excel to get to that, I've had poor success. You have to go. I found the best success is go to the web and just put in a URL. You know, since it is HTTPS, it is secure, and then with your file name at the very end, and that seems to work the cleanest.
Okay.
So
What
I
about?
found
Yeah.
starting through Excel and going that way, I've had issues with that, you know, where it doesn't always connect. So I just do it the other way. Get data, web,
Uh-huh.
type in, you know, or you can find a link and cut and paste a link, you know. But
Yeah. Yeah, but
working
the
from Excel, and it doesn't always bring it in cleanly for some reason.
yeah, so the link, where do you grab that from? Do you just open the file
Right
in
up
a
there.
browser and just grab it from
Yeah.
here?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, you open SharePoint and you can grab everything out to where it starts into the layouts and, you know,
Got it.
everything to the
Yeah.
left of
Yeah.
that basically.
Okay.
When you're in SharePoint, because you got your SharePoint site / department / you know, whatever. You
Okay.
know.
All right.
You know.
Perfect.
But
What
my
if,
main question,
yeah. Can I ask you really quick, have you also tried getting files from a SharePoint folder? I mean,
I haven't done that yet.
okay. So just for others
'Cause,
then, I love getting things from a folder, very flexible option. So it just goes to a folder, grabs all the files. And then I believe this never really worked for SharePoint folders, so they added a new one.
doesn't.
I would assume this works. It does work, I'm sure. But yeah, that's a pretty cool option. So all right, so you had something else on your mind as well?
Yeah, the actual question I want to ask. I keep reading everywhere. It says I can use Cortana to get information out. I have
Yeah.
had about zero success with that, even though I've gone into my, you know, reports and databases and everything in the service, turn it on, go back,
Yeah.
let it sync up for a day, whatever, reboot the whole 9 yards, but it doesn't seem to want to work. You start typing in something that you can do on a normal question, and all I
Yeah.
get is web access, and I go, that doesn't help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
So good question. So I had managed to get Cortana up and working when I was with Microsoft. This was as a consultant, so this was more recent. I left Microsoft as an employee in October 2014, but this was more recent. So I did get it to work, but I believe for one, you need to be using, and I'm fuzzy on this, kind of Active Directory. So whatever my AD, I'll just say AD.
Yeah,
Whatever
it
my
is.
Power BI login was, you were logging into your machine with the same one.
I am.
You are? Okay.
Yes,
Now
I am.
this is where I'm on really thin ice. I think AD can be set up kind of, I don't know, maybe in kind of Azure, so kind of cloud-based versus an on-prem based. That
Mhm.
could be the difference. Shouldn't be. But I can tell you that it does work once you get past that credentialing thing. I'll try to reach out uh, to I don't know, the Power BI team or somebody in there, see if they can give you better tips.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
sorry.
it's confusing when you read it. It says click on this. Well, you know, it could take 30 minutes. I said, well, that's fine. I can understand that, you know, but
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem to want to pull back the information.
yeah. I think what's going to be helpful, what would have helped me as well, because even within Microsoft, I struggled. I mean, it took effort. Was if somehow this was more transparent, that you could kind of see that
Hmm.
connection is working out. If Cortana could just say that, yes, I am connected to. You know how you connect to a Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
It said, yep, I have these available. I'm connected to this one. What if it showed just like that? And it said, yep, I have these Power BI instances you have access to or something like that. Power BI report server. which doesn't have Q&A yet, but so forth. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that would be cool. Maybe that's an idea, a good idea to be submitted to the Power BI team. But yeah, I agree, it's
Mhm.
slightly problematic now. So yeah, sorry, I don't think I have any other tips for you, but I'll try to poke around, ask around, see if I can find something.
Well, it all helps. So.
All right, and yeah, thanks for sharing your experience with the SharePoint files. Perfect.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Yep, perfect, great. So yeah, some of you on YouTube as well said that they use the query editor to generate the calendar table. Yep, use it over and over again. Great. All right, let's come back to you, Ashok. I'm gonna unmute you. Did that work? Oh, it says self-muted. So okay, you're unmuted on my side.
Yes.
Hey,
Hi,
how's it
Avi.
going?
How are you?
I am great. I'm great.
Yeah. Just wanted to ask you that you use Power BI Desktop to connect to SharePoint Online. Um, in my
Mhm.
case, is it okay? Because I am doing the Power BI Desktop connection to SharePoint. Then, if I am switched off my laptop,
Yeah.
and if somebody update the Excel sheet from the SharePoint Online, will it going to be updated in the Power BI report which I published already, or do
Yeah,
I need to
good
keep my
question.
laptop open?
Let me make sure I write it. If the SharePoint file is changed, would
Yeah,
the published model stay up to date?
yeah.
So you're
This
publishing
is
it
in the
to
case.
PowerBI.com, right? Not a Power BI
Yeah,
report or
yeah.
something. Okay.
Through Power BI Desktop, I'm publishing it to PowerBI.com.
Yeah. And can I ask you the key question? So you have SharePoint, you're connecting to some file on SharePoint Online. Great. But do you have other
Right.
connections in the file? I don't know, something local, a local server, local SQL, local file, something like that. Do you have anything like that in your file?
No, nothing. This is a simple Excel sheet which we
Okay,
saved in the SharePoint Online.
perfect. So have you set up schedule refresh on PowerBI.com?
Yes, for this Excel sheet, yes.
Well, then yes, then yeah, your laptop doesn't need to be up. PowerBI.com, that service is gonna reach out to SharePoint Online.
Okay.
And if your schedule refresh is set, I would expect it would probably have asked you for the credentials and so forth. And if all of those are in, then yes, it's going to be able to refresh. And you can check the refresh history on PowerBI.com. And if it's failing, you can kind of debug that. But overall, it should work.
But does it require any gateway like personal gateway or some gateway, or does it
No,
no need
no.
for
So
that?
online data sources, kind of what are called cloud sources, they don't require a gateway. You only need a gateway for an on-prem. And that's why I was asking you if you had a local server. And again, if you mix those two together, if you had one SharePoint Online source and one which looks at a local file, a local SQL server or something, then my
Okay.
understanding, the whole refresh fails. It's not like it's going to refresh the SharePoint Online and not do the other one. It just doesn't work. So you only have the cloud source that's going to work. So again, for cloud sources, it can be anything kind of OneDrive, SharePoint Online, all of those services, kind of MailChimp, this, that, Google Analytics. If it just connect to the cloud services, you can set up the refresh and it should work uh, without any need for a gateway.
Okay. So this means that I can either publish the report from the Power BI desktop, or I can directly connect from the PowerBI.com, SharePoint Online. Both ways it will work.
I'm not sure what you mean by the
I mean
second
that
comment. So,
first I connected the Excel sheet from the SharePoint Online to the Power BI desktop, and then
yeah,
I publish it to the PowerBI.com.
yeah.
The second option is directly from the PowerBI.com. I will fetch this Excel sheet from the online SharePoint Online and then publish it.
Well, if you connect, if you say kind of get files and you point to, it's an Excel file, right?
Yeah, SharePoint
Uh,
team sites maybe.
yeah, yeah. So I don't think I'm going to be able to do the whole thing, but what business?
Not from the business, just the SharePoint.
I know I don't think I have SharePoint up and running in my account, but again,
Yeah,
this kind of
from
works
the
the same
business,
way.
I am able to do that. That is perfectly working fine.
But even with SharePoint Online, if you see that option, you would essentially come to this question, right? So you can import Excel and make it look like Excel, which is this option. So yeah, if all you want is just to kind of be able to look at that Excel file and as it updated, everybody sees it within Power BI, you would use this,
Yeah,
which
but I don't
sounds
want.
like the right
I
one.
want to use the first option, the import Excel data into Power BI.
But that one is misleading because what that is really saying. Oh,
Yeah, if I use this one, that means it will bring my all the tables which is there in the Excel in, and then I can prepare any report.
oh gosh, yeah. So sorry, yeah, this has changed. It used to be that you could only do it if it had kind of a Power Pivot model. Um,
No, I
Yeah,
think
I would
Excel
say,
also
yep. I
was
think
working.
from your purposes, yep. If you can connect either way, I will say I'm a little partial to Power BI Desktop because I see that as an authoring tool. But you could try this route
Okay.
as well. I think Power BI Desktop would probably give you more room for growth. That you can,
Yeah.
combine other data sources, cloud sources. You can do more clean shape transform. Here, it
Okay.
might be limited. All right, so
Okay. Yeah.
that might be the
Great.
trade-off.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, absolutely. All right. Hmm. So guy is saying you do need a gateway for SharePoint Online. I'm not so sure about that, but I'll test it maybe on the call and later on. Why can't I use? So yeah, folks, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. If you're on the Talk Power BI webinar interface, if you're on YouTube, just type it in. So William is saying, why can't I use data query to connect to a named range in an Excel spreadsheet that is saved as an XLSB file? Uh, I'm not sure. I don't think I've tried that. A named range. First of all, is it specific to the XLSB file? If it's an XLSX file, does it work? Mm, yeah, I really wouldn't know. Again, you can, if it really doesn't work, then maybe submit an idea on ideas.powerbi.com. Oh, works as an XLSX. That sounds like a bug or something. Then yeah, that seems unexpected. So it works on XLSX and XLSM, just not on XLSB. Yep. So I will say submit that as a bug perhaps to the Power BI team. Bummer. All right. Let's see. Okay, we're close to the R. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for hanging out with me. I usually hang out as long as there are questions. William has another one. Good, right on cue. I have another question on measures versus columns and working with a data model that is tens of millions of records. I have a spreadsheet I can share with the column formulas summarized. So yeah, William, I read your comment, but I'm not sure. If you want, we can unmute you. All you have to do is click on the raise hand icon, and then I'm able to unmute you on my side, and we can chat. Oh, there we go. Got it. I see it. Oh wait, it toggled off again. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, you're unmuted on my side. Hi, how you doing?
Hello, Avi.
Hello there. Okay, so you talked a little bit about measures versus column, tens of millions of records. What else is going on?
Yes, I am down. This is related to end of day stock market files,
Ooh, how
and
fun.
I'm downloading lots, a long 4 or 5 year time period for thousands of stocks. And
Okay.
I need to, so I've developed some formulas that will allow me to calculate a moving, 5-day average, a moving 1-week average, a moving annual average, a moving 200-day average, and I can show them to you. I'd be happy to share them to you, but I can only get them to work
Mm-hmm.
within as columns. And so the moment that I start adding those columns,
Yeah.
I can't add more than about a couple 100,000 rows of information into the model.
Yeah.
And so obviously I should be doing all of this in SQL, but I don't have SQL available to me.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, maybe there's a way to rewrite some of these measures.
Yeah.
But they're complicated because they need to sum up back history based on date or based on some other type of number, and or maybe I could write these columns in the data query. So it doesn't matter how long the data query takes to move
Yeah.
in, as long as the formulas aren't there. I'd be happy to share some of these formulas
Let's
that I'm using on the
let's
column.
try that. But I'll say, I mean, I've mostly lived kind of in the business user side of things, and a lot of times I was in the same boat as you. I didn't have any access to SQL. I mean, I was not allowed to set up, blah blah, something like that, depending on the organization. Sometimes I did. At Microsoft, I did. You could set up your own SQL server on your box, use it whatever you wanted. But right now, I firmly feel that Power BI should be able to handle it. Why not? I mean, it can certainly tens of millions of rows is not a problem. We can kind of figure out that, hey, what's going on here. So that is one trade-off I think you have kind of experienced with adding a lot of columns. So when you say you can't add more than 10,000 rows, what happens? Does it just bog down when you're refreshing, or something else happens? It blows up? I don't know. Just kidding. But yeah, what do you say? What happens when you do try to add a million rows?
Yeah. So currently I've got a data query and I'm filtering it down to the first
Hmm.
about 10,000 rows or something,
Okay.
and then I'm building these columns
Hmm.
in the
Yep.
in the power in the area for building those columns,
Got it. So it
and
sounds
then
like you're just going here and saying new column, right? So, and you
yes,
add that in.
yes,
Okay.
and but then when I try to remove the filter on the amount of data that's coming into the
Yeah.
into this area,
Yeah.
uh, it bogs down. If I open it up to a million, it just
Yeah.
stops. It bogs down.
Yeah.
It says there's not enough room, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Do you have a 32-bit setup or 64-bit? Do you know?
It's a 64-bit with 64 with about 60 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, technically,
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, maybe I could do half or part of this or something. It's just,
Yeah.
but there's no way I can program, the data query to bring in the first, couple of
Hmm.
thousand rows and then bring in some more and
Yeah.
then bring in some more. I
Yeah. Yeah.
can bring in the entire 10 million row set without any
Calculation. Any columns.
calculated columns. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So for one, I think we can rule out. So SQL, I'm not in favor of. I mean, like, hey, I really look for things which can be solved using Power BI, because often that's all a user has access to. So and you talked about data queries, that maybe you can add it in the query editor. But I think you're going to run into the exact same challenge, because you're just switching the engine. In here, in the add column, is kind of the DAX engine, which adds it. But in the query editor, it's going to be, why isn't it popping up? It's going to be kind of the M engine that adds it. So I don't think you're going to get away. Right? You can go to your query editor and here, do add column, add column, add column. but I think you're going to see the same thing. I feel like, and from what you were describing, a lot of these were calculations, the moving averages and so forth, that the best approach is to make them a measure. Uh, yeah, that would be reasonable. Why don't we, yeah, take a quick look at your model.
Yes,
And
yes, because therein lies the rub. These things I can create as columns, but I cannot figure
yeah,
out how to convert them to a measure.
okay, so I'm gonna make you presenter, and when you yeah, it should pop up something, and you should be able to click on something and share your screen.
Yeah, let me. So here's a.
All right, so these are all columns, right?
Yeah, so here's a list of the. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
And I cannot convert these columns into measures.
so give me a simple one. Like, what's the simplest one here? Is this good enough? 7? Let's look at that. So you're saying
Yeah, seven's
rolling.
great.
Yeah, so you're saying rolling 30-day. What is CD? Sorry. So are you trying to figure out the max point in that
Roll
rolling
30
30 days?
day. Roll 30 day on a calendar.
Uh-huh.
Calendar date basis.
So, and this is trying to find the max. So for a given stock or something like that, you look at the past 30 days, show me what the maximum point was, right?
So
Price,
all this
stock
is
price.
trying to do is this particular one
Yeah.
is this particular one. So there's a set of these that try to find that need to find the dates
Yeah.
in the row where all of this is necessary. So go back 5 or between one date and another, and then there's another set that actually does the calculation. In this case, it's finding the dates, and then it says, okay, if this is a 30 days, go back 30 days and find the max price for that 30-day period.
Got it. Okay. Show me the diagram view. You knew I was gonna ask that, right?
I did, and I think I can here. Can you see the view?
Yeah, I can. Okay. So I doubt I can pull it off on a live call with your data, but maybe I can do it with my data. So let me see. So rolling 30 days. So what if we say oh, sorry. I guess
That's
I got
great.
lucky. So let's look at the measure 30 days. So this is how I'm doing it. I just say calculate sales, dates and period. You already have a calendar table, so you got a leg up. So by the way, let me ask a few questions on the calendar table. So that DT date is yeah, actually, yeah, it's a calendar table. I can tell. It's got unique dates and stuff, right? So yeah, try this. I'm gonna stick this in your chat window. Or yep, I think I can do that. And I'll circle around and see if there are any other questions. I'm not sure this is enough time, but yeah, you can kind of give it a try. But I'm pretty much entirely convinced that yeah, I mean you should be able to write a measure. Why not? It's a math, it's calculation. Measures are the main engine for that. And so try that.
Okay, I tell you what, thank you very much for this.
All right, sure.
This is a whole new way. I hadn't, dates and period, that's kind of an interesting thing. I hadn't tried that.
Yeah.
Using the max. So let me let me fool around with this, and I'll sign on. Next time you have one of these.
Cool. So what I'll also say for others, perhaps, is if you go to my, oh gosh. So if you're just starting out, and I warned you at the beginning, if you're just starting out, this is kind of level 200. So thank you, William. Hope that helped.
It does. Thank you.
Did that work? Ah, well, just go to my channel, YouTube Modern Excel. And if you look over in playlists, there's one which is this guy, the Power BI tutorial. And that's a good way to start. And I don't remember if it has time intelligence, but that's what's being used here. Really, anything which uses a calendar table pretty much is time intelligence. And just to show, I mean, you can do things like sales quarter to date, which, well, let me just show here. So you have sales quarter to date, year to date, life to date. Life to date is fun. Prior year, which is so easy. And again, this stuff I love. I really dig stuff that was super hard. I mean, prior year, doing that in a flexible way where you could just change it and slice and dice it any which way you wanted. I mean, I would say that was impossible. I mean, you couldn't do it in Excel. It was always spaghetti of formulas. That's what I call it. But here, you just write one formula and that's it. You can slice and dice it any which way you want. And I'm glad I had it ready because I have to say we are in an hour. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to write the formula. I'm like, what? How do I do rolling 30 days? But yeah, I was glad in there. Okay, great. So let's see. I'm going to do a quick check on our YouTube friends. Make sure that is looking okay. So Chetan does have a question. When I click on publish the report to web, is the link that'll pop up to be global so Google or people don't? Excellent question. Love it. So let me write it down. We're here and look at that. We've filled up the page. That's what I'm talking about. Chetan's asking when I hit publish from PBI desktop, the link is the resulting link public. So yeah, so if you go to Power BI desktop, this file, and you hit publish, it's going to publish it to powerbi.com, and it's going to bring up a prompt and say, yep, oops, didn't want to do that. It's going to bring up a prompt and say, yep, kind of done, published, something like that, and it'll give you a link. Now that link is not public. That link is by default, it's only for you. If you do want to make it public, then you can go to online, my organization, and open a report. Let's try this guy. Oh boy, that's ugly. Let's find a better looking one. What is going on? Okay, looks decent. And you would go File and Publish to Web. That's what would make it public and give you a link which you can share with anybody. Oh, so yeah, Jack, sorry the things weren't clear. So Jack is asking which tutorial should I watch. I'll just I'll give you kind of two links. I think let's see if this one works. Oh yeah, so for the tutorial, try this one or YouTube Modern Excel. So I call it zero to dashboard, but yeah, the learnpowerbi.com/bonus is a quick way to get it. It'll point you to the right one. Otherwise,
hello, my friends. My name is
You
Avi
might have to
Singh.
dig
I'm a
around.
Microsoft MVP and a best selling Power BI author and expert.
It's
My
always
goal
weird
with
to
this training
look
module
and listen
is
to yourself. It never gets old. I'll just go here. Okay, cool. So you have those links. So Chetan, hopefully that helped. This is still churning, but that would work out. No, Karandeep. As I said, usually if I don't have like a kids soccer drop off or something, which I don't, uh, I hang on till there are questions. I don't know if I can do that forever, but yep. So let's come to you. I'm gonna unmute you. Hey, hey. Can I just call you Karan?
Yeah, you can call me Karan. Yeah.
How's it going?
Hi, Avi. Going good, thanks.
Awesome.
How are you?
Doing great. I love
So,
these calls.
yeah.
Yeah.
So really enjoying, yeah, the informative session that you're, taking through us through. So I have a small question on the gateways.
Yeah.
So I have been, publishing few reports online, and earlier I was doing it on web, and then I moved to the paid version and started doing on in a secure way. And so I'm not facing any issues with the desktop, like when I publish a report that I have to do manually. Suppose I refresh some
Hmm.
database and publish it, and then it comes to my app.powerbi page, and then I publish it to a app. So that everything is working very fine, but when I try
Okay.
to schedule refreshes, and the data that I'm linking to is through a SQL server in our
Okay.
organization. So I need on-premises gateway. So I
Hmm.
tried the personal gateway, and then the other one I don't know the name, but which is not the personal
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah.
I tried both, but I'm getting a lot of errors, and I also followed that YouTube channel, Guy in a Cube. So he
Hmm.
has posted so many things on that how you can resolve that. But the kind of error I'm getting is not listed in there. I mean, I'm not able to resolve it. So what I think right now is this is too much of a pain for somebody to. It should be
Yeah.
very easy that to
Yeah.
uh, get the on premises gateway linked, and use it flawlessly. So
Yeah.
I'm facing a lot of issues with this. Otherwise everything is going great. Only this gateway thing is not getting resolved, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
facing challenges. So you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
help me
Good
around that.
point. Good point. So, uh, I have experienced a lot of that myself. And
Hmm.
when I was having issues, I went hunting around, probably like you did. And isn't that true? You find a ton of people complaining about issues with Gateway, right? So, Karan, you didn't find your
Yeah.
solution, but you at least saw that there were a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'm getting this
Yeah.
error, I'm
Yeah.
getting that error." Um, yeah, I'm
Right.
not. I'm not sure. And again, this year at the Data Insight Summit, they didn't disclose how many total users they have, so it's hard to kind of assess as a percentage how many users are having trouble. But clearly, there are
Hmm.
number wise, there are quite a few. And again, the odd thing is for the people for whom it works, it just seems to work. I mean, they set it up and like, yeah, I don't have any trouble. But for the rest of
Hmm.
us, it's like, man, it's so hard. So that is true. Uh, the best advice I can say, and again, maybe you can dig through its. Let me ask actually, if, before I suggest anything. So do you have access to your SQL Server in terms of kind of admin access? Can you run
Uh,
Profiler and see when something is hitting the box?
Yes, yes, I can do that, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes I use the personal mode gateway as well, and
Hmm.
sometimes it shows online and running on my system ID, like the service tag,
Yeah.
and sometimes it just says that it's offline. I mean, it's my
Yeah.
system, I'm working on it, and it's saying it's offline. So
Yeah.
when it is online, I'm able to refresh few of the reports which are connected to a different server,
Hmm.
and I mean it refreshes through the app.powerbi, and few I've never been able to refresh through the online thing. I mean the power app.powerbi. So
Yeah.
sometimes it works, and for few, and for few it does not even work. I mean, I've tried so many things, but it does not work. Yeah, I have access to answer your question. I have admin
Yeah.
access to
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So
SQL
yeah,
servers.
yeah. Given everything you've tried, I would say that maybe, and I always hesitate to say it, but maybe a third-party tool is an option, and I have used it quite extensively. I don't know, you may be familiar. It's called Power Update, and
Hmm.
I like that one because that one doesn't run in the cloud. It runs on your desktop. It runs the refresh on your desktop. So the theory
Okay.
becomes that
I have not tried.
if you can open this file and hit refresh, that's
Mhm.
essentially what the tool does. That's what it does. It opens the PBIX files, hits the refresh. Uh,
Oh,
right.
okay.
So again, I mean, it makes it simple. There's no cloud, there's no gateway, and in some sense, and what you can do is you can tell the tool that, hey, point to a PBIX file, and the tool is running locally, so you can just, point to whatever hard disk, doesn't matter, right? C colon something something,
Hmm.
point to this
Hmm.
file, and then it says run the refresh, and then you have an option of where do you want it published, and you have an option. One of the options is publish to powerbi.com, so it publishes it over there. So again, it kind of changes the equation where instead of let me see if I can draw a cloud and whatever there's on-prem. Instead of the refresh kind of running here, the refresh is now running on-prem. So it's just cleaner, and it does sometimes run into issues, but usually they're not that crazy and so forth. So I'm gonna send you a link to that in the chat box. But yeah, it's
Okay.
a Power Update. That's a third-party tool. I mean, because it already sounds like you've tried everything else.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's kind of that we are automating the process that I'm doing right now when I go to the Power BI desktop and do it manually myself. I mean, refresh it and then publish it. So we are doing it with the
Yeah.
help of third party software, and the software is doing it for us.
Oh, oh uh, wow. But they're very
No, is that what you said? I mean,
so
the
this
software that
one
you just mentioned, Power Update. So
so
it does the
this
same
one
thing. I mean,
uh, so you already
no,
has an
no.
automated solution?
No. I'm asking. I was just
Yeah.
rephrasing. I thought that this is what you meant.
No, so I hate doing things manually. So what this third-party tool Power
Mhm.
Update lets you do is lets you automate that. So you can just
Okay.
set it, you
Okay.
can set a schedule, and you can say
Okay.
refresh every
Okay.
hour, and that's it. And of
Okay.
course, you have to leave that computer running, but you kind of need that for the gateway anyway, right? So even if you had gone that
Right.
route.
Right.
But this one doesn't
Yeah.
require a gateway. You set up that tool,
Okay.
and it
Okay.
installs the services, scheduler, and all that stuff. If you poke in there, you will see
Okay.
all of them. And then you set the
All right.
schedule. You say, hey, this Power BI file, refresh it every
Mhm.
hour, go publish it to powerbi.com when you're done, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
it.
Okay.
As long as you don't kind of shut the computer down, it runs every hour and does its thing.
Oh, that's
So
great. That's
automates
great.
it. Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
yeah.
That helps then.
Hands
Yeah.
free is always great. All right, terrific.
Yeah, and one more question I have
Sure.
on the like you just showed that how we can calculate prior year or quarter over quarter, year over year.
Yeah.
So I have been doing it in Excel, that how we can show okay trends for a particular, I mean, region or whatever the data requires.
Yeah.
So I have been doing it in Excel, that quarter over quarter and year over thing. But here I find it little bit complex because we need that date table uh, linked to our database.
Yeah.
So I tried downloading it from I mean, I got some source and reading some blogs, and there was a link that okay, you can download it uh,
Yeah.
from here, the date table. But the problem was that uh, the date and the quarter aligned to it is not same as my organization. So suppose we say that current today it is Q2 for quarter two for us, but that table has
Yeah.
I mean, today's data is quarter three. So there
Yeah.
it all messes up. I'm not able to solve that thing, that I need to correct that. And I read somewhere or in the updates that Power BI is coming up with something where they will people don't have to depend on this thing. So
Mhm.
they're coming up with a solution on that.
Mhm.
So, what do you suggest that if you want to calculate quarter over quarter, because business always needs this kind
Yeah.
of trend
Yeah.
analysis as well. So, suppose I
Absolutely.
show them, okay, this is the quarter over quarter trend in a column chart, and then
Yeah.
they say, okay, show me what's the change, how is it looking,
Yeah.
whether it's good. I can
Yeah.
they can
So
anytime
your only
see that okay,
challenge
this
is
quarter is
that you you need the right calendar table. So let me ask a little bit about your calendar. So I've
Right.
worked with
Yeah.
worked at Microsoft with Microsoft, both of them, and their fiscal year started in July, and then I worked with government
Mhm.
entities, NASA, so forth, and their fiscal year started with October. I was told that's to do with how the Congress passes the budget and so forth. So do you have a similar structure where just the start of what's usually called a fiscal year is shifted?
Mm,
Is that what it is, or
it,
it's something different?
yeah, it's February every year. So Feb, March,
February.
April is Q1. Yeah,
Yeah, got it. So Q1 is Feb, March,
March
April.
and April.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So
and
I'm
May,
gonna,
June, July
yeah,
is Q2.
got it. Yeah. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a brain dump. So stay with me, and hopefully by the end
Hmm.
of it, you would. So the short version is, this should be really easy, right? This wouldn't be hard.
Okay.
This would be pretty easy to do,
Okay.
uh, because all you have to do is shift the calendar. So let me show you this example, and I hope I didn't. I kept the calendar. Ah, perfect. So I kept the fiscal year. So um, okay, I want to slow down. The first thing is that as far as Power BI is concerned, you need only one column in the date or calendar table. All right, that's the only one Power BI cares about, and that's this guy. Right now, this has certain
Okay.
very
Okay.
specific attributes. It needs to be a
Hmm.
date data type. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, date data type. And it needs to be contiguous. You cannot skip any dates. So you pick a range. Oh, I want the last 10 years, something like that, and say, yep, from January 1 to December 1, all of that. So no skipping dates.
Skipping. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's it. That's of course that's easy to do. Now for the other
Hmm.
columns, interestingly, Power BI doesn't quite care about them. They're labels for humans. And if you think about it, date table is not that unique in a way. If you look at my lookup tables, it's a lookup table kind of like other ones. So same as how in customer you have kind of the customer key, uh, and then you have different customer attributes, right? The same
Right.
way,
Right.
date table has kind of the date key, which is the date itself, usually. Where's my calendar? And then you have other attributes, the same way as humans would analyze customer not by the key. We can't deal with that. We would analyze by, I don't know, the gender, their occupation. That's the stuff I have in AdventureWorks anyway. Same way,
Hmm.
you're gonna analyze not by date, that's too granular. You want to analyze by year, quarter, month, and so forth. So those are simply labels. And you can make up your own labels, and notice that's what I've done. So you can
Okay.
say that, oh,
Yeah, I
December
got it.
is not, it's not year, is not 15. I mean, that's a label
Hmm.
anyway. I'm going to give it a different label. I'm going to
Right.
call it FY
Fiscal year.
2016.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
call it
Yeah.
FIQ2, and this is the fiscal month num, and so forth. So that's all you need to do that, and usually that's fairly easy to do in your query editor. Now I don't remember. So in this case, I pulled it from the underlying table, but you can often just kind of build it using logic here that, oh yeah, if it's in your case Feb, um, so you do some math like, hey, if its month is uh, greater than, oh, I can't do it right now, but yeah, you get my point. You basically label Feb as month number one, fiscal month num, gosh, and so forth, right? So that would give you your labeling. Okay, you want to say hi?
Yep.
Okay, we have a guest here. So folks on the GoToWebinar can't see it, but we're pet sitting, and he's Rocky. We love pet sitting because we get to play with the dog and then give it back. Okay, back to Power BI. Okay, sure.
Okay. So
Okay, so sorry, yeah. Let me finish real
no
quick. So
problem. No
so
problem.
one, you kind of build the labels, and then the other
Hmm.
part is actually on the measure side. So let's try this. Let's try this over here. Uh, okay, great. So notice that right now, yeah, the year to date is resetting on January. So it thinks January is the beginning of the year. Now I can go to my sales year to date measure and instruct it differently. So most of the time intelligence measures have this other option, Oops, not this guy. So notice it has a different end date. This is optional. So by default, it thinks that January is the beginning and December 31st is the ending. But I can come in here and say, and this is the year end date. So in your case, it'll be January 31. And actually, that's all you have to say, January 31. And if you notice in my graph here now, instead of resetting at January, the year to date is resetting at February. And
February. Yeah.
quarter to date, by the way, quarter date, yeah, quarter date. Oh gosh, quarter to date might take a little bit of work. That's an interesting challenge. I'm gonna take that offline. Sometimes I spin up videos from this. So I was gonna say, I was almost tempted to say that usually quarter to date is not a problem. It wasn't a problem in case of Microsoft fiscal year, July, or NASA's fiscal year, October, because those are natural quarter boundaries, right? It's just, but in your case, a quarter to date is going to be a problem, but nothing that can't be solved using measures. So quarter to date, I'll take that one offline. But again, overall idea is have a calendar table, which gives you those labels that you need, your own fiscal year, fiscal quarter. And then year to date is easy. Quarter to date would take a little bit of work. What do you think?
And
Did that
yeah,
give you a good
yeah.
start on doing this?
Yes, yes.
I will
And
paste this one. Yep, go ahead.
okay, so so this is on that, this really helps that we can now calculate year till date numbers. But suppose we want to show, if you just look at your this table on the up, top, and we are showing December 2014, and we are
Yeah,
showing few numbers, and we
yeah.
want to add one more column which says what is the quarter over quarter change. I mean, whether it has for December's data, like what we are trying
Oh,
to
got it. Okay.
convey,
Uh-huh.
what is the year over year change
Yeah,
in terms of percentage. So then we look
yeah,
at December 2013 and compare that data and show, okay, it's up by 10% or down
yeah,
by 9%, something of that sort.
yeah, yeah,
So how do we can we do it with the same date table and we with some DAX formulas or some
yeah.
measures?
hmm Yeah, so one thing that I love about this is that it's kind of define once, use everywhere. And once you define something, you can use that as building blocks. So it's easiest for me to show kind of year over year. But yeah, I mean, you can do that for months, you can do that for quarters as well.
Okay.
So once you define sales, which is really simple, it's just sales sum of sales amount, and you define sales prior year, which uses this time intelligence formula, you can slice and dice it any which way you want, and you can build other measures using it. So sales year over year. So then you can just say, oh, just A minus B. That's it. And you probably already know. So the percentage change is just yep, use the existing measure and divide by prior year, right? So you see what I'm doing here, right?
Divided
I'm
by, yep.
just as so the year over year change and percentage change is easy. Really, the only tricky part is this one. So as long as you can get over this one, then you got this is A, this is B, and you can just do A minus B and then do the percentage. So that everything else becomes easy because now you're just playing with Lego blocks and you can build them, combine them
Right.
as you want. So that part would be easy. And just to show this to you, so here I have sales year over year by month, but I can do it by any other calendar field that I want. Again, it's just yeah, these are just labels, right? So I can do it by, did that work? Do that by quarter, maybe a bar graph, something like this. This one, right? So and have a drill down by month or something like that. So Q1, you go to January, February, March, and right. So so the year-over-year comparison. Once you've built that, you can easily show the delta and the change. And the second thing, again, I'll come back to your calendar, is that right now I'm showing here kind of the calendar year. But you can change this around and use your kind of fiscal year and fiscal quarter as well, right? So Q2 and fiscal month number. So you can not only easily do the delta and the percentage change, and then you can also show it using whatever definition of calendar you have, which is yours is starting in February. All right?
Yep, yep.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Let's see what else we
And
got.
do you have this table? I mean, somewhere. I mean, the columns that you are using in the calendar table. So, do we need to have same set, or as you said, it can be user based? I mean, number of
Yeah.
columns that we are showing here after the date. I mean, date is the
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
important
Yep.
thing,
Yep.
and then
Absolutely. Yep.
the rest
Uh,
columns can
mhm.
be less or more. That's the last question. I will not take
Okay. Perfect.
30 seconds more. So it's just that we need I mean these set of columns, or it's I mean we change those. It can be user based in the calendar.
Yeah. The short answer is yes. You can have anything you want. And
Okay, okay,
so obviously in here, you notice that I have kind of calendar year and I have fiscal
right.
year. Frankly, at
Right.
Microsoft, depending on the team that I was dealing with, sometimes I would not have the calendar year because it was too confusing. They're like, you know what?
Okay,
Nobody cares about calendar. So yeah, then you can delete those.
okay. It's
And
just the fiscal.
yep,
Okay,
and in here I have kind of weekday and weekend, and so yeah, you can have anything you want. And
anything. Okay.
usually when I would go to clients, they would
Mhm.
inevitably come up with something like, oh, what about this, what about that, and I was always kind of surprised, well, initially at least. Like, I remember one client that I was, and they needed the calendar year, but they also needed the academic or school year, because some of the clients were kind of universities and so forth, and they said, hey, we want to understand what their cycle is like when their semester begins, how to. So yeah, so this is very flexible. You can add whatever attributes or labels make sense to you for that date. All right, Karan, thanks so much for your questions. Let's
All
see.
right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for your help. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go back to, if I can keep everything in control, YouTube. So Chetan, oh boy. Nikolai on YouTube is asking, will there be level 300, 400 webinars? You know, I'll say no, not from me. Not because I possibly couldn't teach that stuff. I mean, I have the best-selling book, and of course, I've done a lot of work. I could teach that stuff easily, but that's not where my focus is. Maybe I should write it down. This is good enough. Not this one. So why am I not keen? Okay, let's see how well I can draw. Let's see, this is all of the Excel users. So by the way, I do identify with kind of the business user, the person who's on the front line, who needs data, often doesn't have it, right? Doesn't have it. I mean, IT gives him something, it gets him 80% there, it gets him or her 80% there, 90% there, but never the full way. So they have to walk that last mile, and that last mile is hard. I mean, they're scrabbling, they're pulling data from different places, doing all these formulas and all this stuff, and it's hard, and it's especially hard. It's one of those ugly scenarios because it's not their job. Their job is to boost sales, to focus on operations, make sure the customer support stays happy, or something like that, right? So they're doing something else. They're in sales, finance, operations, some of the function like this. And grappling with data is not their job, but it has become their job. So that's my focus, and my big, hairy, audacious goal is to reach all Excel users in this world and at least give them a little bit and say, hey, so that they are at least aware of this. So now there are folks near the top who are really, really good, and yeah, they need kind of level 300, 400 training, but uh, I want to focus on the bottom of the pyramid, right? So, I mean, I sound like, yeah. So, yeah, I'm really focused on the person who's struggling day in and day out, kind of a business user, doesn't have the right tools. I mean, Excel is a great tool in the sense that it's ultimately flexible, lets you do anything you want. But we all know it kind of ends up in that Excel hell, just a lot of crud. And I want to show them the Power BI. So yeah, I mean, that's my focus, so I doubt I'll be doing webinars there. But of course, in the Q&A, when I teach my class, Learn Power BI, we have a Q&A session every week. And there's some students who are pretty advanced. Pam, I'm not sure if she's on the call, but yeah, she was certainly one of them. And they would throw a curveball at me, and we'll either try to solve in the Q&A. Sometimes I'll solve it afterwards, and so forth. So I often take these challenges from my students, which are definitely level 300, 400. I would say so, for me at least. And if you would actually go on my channel, do I have something on channel yet? Yeah, I don't think I have on my channel yet, but I would put some of them up where they're kind of challenges and so forth. So you would see some content from me. Probably best thing is on YouTube, but I want to focus on kind of the bottom of the pyramid. Good question. Chetan had a question, I think a comment. So even my fiscal quarter starts from Feb calendar. Oh, so Chetan, my friend, you're in trouble. Yeah, you don't have it as easy as Karan. So, gee, I want to make sure I spell your name right. Fiscal quarter starts in Feb. 4-week, 4-week, 5-week. All right, so maybe I should have asked Karan this question, but the typical question I ask when I'm paying attention and not at the end of an hour-long call is, okay, I ask them, does a month mean a month? Is February still February, right? Is February still February 1 through February 28 or 29? Is January still January 1 to January 31? Now, it sounds like a stupid question, but it isn't, because in some businesses, they don't follow that calendar. They have what's called a custom calendar, which is what Chetan has here. And typically it's 4-4-5, 4-5-4, 4-5, some combination of that. So 4-week, 4-week, 5-week. Let me see if I can pull up an example of that. Something like that. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So we have a retail calendar. I just wanted to show a quick, there we go, 2017, not retail, that's weird. Let's try this one. So you see the month is not really a month. I mean, February, what they call February, maybe they should come up with new names. Usually they just go by month num anyway. Also goes into March. Yep, and sometimes February has January in there, the prior month in there. So you get the idea. It's not kind of the conventional calendar. So that is a custom calendar. And what you saw me doing for this file, where I switched the year-end date, and I said that if that's the only thing that's different, I can specify that as a parameter. You can't quite do that with custom calendars. In fact, for custom calendars, I'm going to give it to you, pretty much none of these time intelligence functions are going to work for you. That means you have to go kind of through the next level, kind of solve that using logic just on dates. It can be done, and instead of trying to explain everything in here, I'll just point you to my book. So if you are dealing with kind of a custom calendar like this, then just go to my book. Maybe yet someday I would put some YouTube videos on this, but right now the best source is just PowerPoint and Power BI, and that has a chapter on custom calendars. So Chetan, hopefully that would help. Let's see if there are any questions on YouTube. No, any comments coming in on here? Perfect. What is going on with Whew. All right, I might have outlasted you all. No worries. So hey, we do this Fridays. I can't promise every Friday. Depends on my schedule. But yeah, the easiest way is to subscribe to me on YouTube, and I may totally move towards YouTube. Although you saw the interaction that happens. So your two options are, well, not this, but yeah, go to my YouTube channel. Find me Avi Singh on youtube.com/modernexcel. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you just have to hit the subscribe button. So YouTube, and you can go to talkpowerbi.com. So that's going to redirect you but that way you can participate in the call as in kind of, well, really talk. I can unmute you and talk. You can share your screen as you saw in this call. All right, my friends, I'm in one of those states where I am a little bit tired, but also really amped up and excited. I love these calls. So, yep, follow me here, and I'll see you on Fridays with the next Talk Power BI. Take care.